Irrelevant is likely the most widespread buzzword on the internet, right next to leech and nuts, acting as a fairly common retort to any given critic with less fame or success than the one being criticized. A lot of discussions have materialized from the term, but essentially it boils down an argument to the critic simply being envious of the other creator's situation, when rarely is that the case. I mean, I doubt people criticize movies like Troll 2 because they're envious of the director. But despite my opinion on it, the term has been perpetuated through most notorious creators and their audiences. Hell, it's essentially required vocabulary on any diss track that surfaces, often wielding it at best as an insult that's been crippled by oversaturation, and at worst as a flimsy shield to fend off any oncoming backlash, even if that contradicts statements made by the same person when the scenario is flipped.
Just because you have more subscribers than me doesn't mean you're better than me. Fact. How is my content gonna be bad when I have more subscribers than you? I'm not saying having more subscribers makes you better, but that's exactly what I'm saying.
So when is it a viable counter? Well, to ask that would first require us to examine who would qualify for this irrelevant list. Problem is, the word irrelevant has been diluted to the point of being unrecognizable in denotation with the same fate as literally.
That is literally, oh, his head literally just, there has to be quite a few people that literally.
Relevance in this context requires a subject and a platform. It's a question of credibility. Just because someone has a lower subscriber count doesn't make them a dumbass, and alternatively having a higher subscriber count doesn't make you some reincarnation of William James Sidus. This might remind some of a quarrel between Iggy and Danielle, where Danielle bragged about having a sold-out performance for 500 people, which came to a climax when one threw water on the other, and we all pretended to care for some reason. Iggy may not have retained popularity to the extent that people predicted, but is it that much of a reach to say she could drag 500 of her 6 million subscribers to a concert? Putting popularity on a pedestal as if the amount of people in an audience reflects the quality of anything or anyone is a bad practice in general. It's almost never pertinent to the critique at hand, and most often is a low blow, utilized as a Hail Mary attempt to achieve some sort of high ground in the eyes of infants. If the subject matter were to be solely about growth in subscriber amounts, I could see how it would be justifiable to use it with some nuance. However, for the most part, the critic's popularity and relevance is, well, irrelevant. It often leads to many other motive misconceptions with no objective way to prove the retort's valid, leaving it to primarily serve as a sloppy way to misjudge someone's reasons for disliking content in general, and it makes criticism needlessly personal. And needlessly personal is quite the understatement. For a riveting example, you might recall a diss track from Randolph after he called Deji's channel dead and Deji reacted like the man had just glocked his entire family.
You're JJ's cameraman, he pays your salary. I mean, you spend more time with JJ than you do your own wife. You spend more time in the Sidemen house than you do in your own house.
Then people reacted to that reaction, and now Deji made a diss track and people will react to that, and the cycle will continue. The entire argument inevitably devolved into who is more relevant, while simultaneously promoting and alternatively reviving each other's channels. These responses have become so frequent and consistently misused that when the situation actually applies and someone is being critical truly for the sake of attention or redeeming a certain status, calling them out for it is treated with more skepticism than what it would initially have due to outcries with these buzzwords being so common. Truth is, the term should hold little to no weight, yet keep in mind this is the internet. I'm sure you've heard the term used by no small quantity of celebrities, entertainers, and rice scums.
Irrelevant, 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 irrelevant.
Further down the rabbit hole through what serves as a loose interpretation of the trickle-down theory for the term, with even more atrocious results. Really, Rick, for instance, has not been too pleased with people retracting their subscription and proceeds to go absolutely mental.
Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Really Rick, and I heard you guys don't really like videos of me on CNN, so I won't put any more of those up, even though I had another one coming. It was really good. Maybe it's just all that you're jealous.
Or more so than usual. He makes the bold claim that the reason for disliking his content is not his views or perception of reality, but rather that everyone is just envious. Or get this, maybe it's the result of him figuratively shitting into the eyes of anyone that happens to stumble across one of these monstrosities. Worst yet, you can go to the comment section of just really any critique on a famous creator and you'll automatically get these tragic replies, and they seem to always apply the opposite effect of what was initially their intentions. And in case you've been so blessed as to have never witnessed them, I'll ruin that for you now. So context is Wooly1 makes a video on some vlogbrothers, clearly showing no desire to be in their shoes, and the premise is essentially that they're unfunny and bad at producing anything worth watching, despite the clear intentions of this video being that their content is bad and that he dislikes how they got to their position. You can likely guess what half the comments are.
You're just a hatter. Dober Brothers are best YouTuber.
Not sure what's worse here, the idea that it was edited and the errors still remained, or that he even spelled the channel they claimed to defend wrong.
Stop judging the Dober Brothers, they might not like that.
Criticism invoking a negative reaction out of someone? Shocking. Just because they dislike the criticism doesn't mean it's not warranted though. This one also happens to misspell their favorite YouTuber's name.
You can't really judge when you only have 861 views and they have like 6M views. That clearly means that they have much better content and that they are more relevant than you are.
Yes, because the French had less soldiers than Germany in World War II. Guess that makes them in the wrong. If we go off of this, every view makes someone more entertaining and more genius. Not the case at all. The demise of these replies comes from how they prioritize a creator's audience over a creator's points, ironically crippling their own by suggesting without a large fan base the critic's opinion doesn't matter, inadvertently rendering their own comment substanceless by their own terms, seeing as how they have a smaller audience than the critic. Furthermore, if the creator who called someone irrelevant were to be accused of falling into this dreaded irrelevancy, they would lose their only scapegoat permanently for them and their audience. I believe this encapsulates where RiceGum finds himself now, as he has received no shortage of videos taking the piss out of his channel, losing subscribers due to his lengthy track record of implementing his own modern version of McCarthyism with irrelevancy. For a history refresher, McCarthy was around during the Red Scare, where he accused plenty of government officials of being communist only to be booted from government, becoming a chronic alcoholic only to die a few years later. I'm curious as to whether RiceGum will experience a similar fate. Look, I don't want the takeaway to be that no one can be accused of being irrelevant. The purpose is to examine how it's commonly misused and apply it correctly with all of the context in mind, then go about it on a case-by-case basis rather than blindly defending every channel for their sub count. No one remains popular forever. Just as the economy fluctuates, it could be gradual or it could tank. The only people I'd argue who qualify for being irrelevant in a conversation are the ones who center their argument and creativity around the success they received. For example, you could apply it to the Superwoman tweet that was a bit dreadful. Prioritizing longevity will only get you so far. No one stays in their prime forever, whether that be in terms of relevance or just living. What you can keep intact is your principle and how you advertise yourself. In other words, a critic's merit isn't based on popularity, or at least the merit of a critic worth your time. And speaking of which, thank you for watching.